Yeah, I need to quit. Alright, so a lot of people have trouble with consecutive tests. When I mean consecutive tests, depending on how strong your abilities are. For example, with me, when I'm doing remote viewing, or I'm looking for a specific answer to a question. For example, I was telling you in the previous video about we do this thing called plug, poodle or pune. Now, that is done on separate days, every day, separate day. There's a time differential problem, because you have to understand time exists down here in the physical world, but time does not exist in the spiritual world. Everything in the spiritual world, they can look down at any point in our timeline, anywhere, and they can reach out to any point in time to us down here. But when we're down here looking up, we have no reference. We have no... think about it like a clock. When we want to know what time it is, we just have to look at the clock. But when you're in the spirit world, there is no clock, right? So there's a connection between us down here in the physical world, and there's a connection to the spirit world, and then we bounce back from the spirit world to some point back in the physical world at another location for an answer. It's quantum. It's not. It's constantly shifting. It's a quantum field. It's every single piece of our reality can be contained in a grain of sand, right? So there are many grains of sand, and every single grain of sand contains a piece of the whole, or is the whole of everything. So there's many. It's difficult to explain it. It's, oh my God, it's so difficult to explain it. But when you connect to the spirit world, or you want to remote view something, you have to have coordinates of some kind. You have to have some kind of unique reference point, something that will connect you uniquely to that object or that thing or that person that might be thousands of miles away. And you also have to coordinate in time as well, so that's difficult. Let me just give you an example. There was a time I was talking to somebody on Ventrilo when we were doing the Lightworker stuff years ago, and I'm talking to this friend of mine. Now, I've never spoken to him on previous occasions, and I haven't really spoken to him since then. So there was a unique time window. The time window was unique in the fact that there was nothing before and there was nothing after. Well, nothing significant after. There was maybe a couple of occasions I had a quick conversation with him, but there was nothing significant. Now, the time window that I communicated with him on in the chat, I actually got an image, and it was specific to his timeline at that moment, and it was within a day or so. And what I saw was 3 plant pots outside his garage door. I told him, this is part of the reason why I stopped doing this thing, because you'll see in a minute. I told him don't. There's 3 plant pops, and I'm seeing danger. I'm seeing danger. Don't have an accident. He said, well, I'm not sure what that is. He said, I don't know. I'm not sure about these plant pots. He didn't know anything about it. Anyway, 2 days went by. 2 days. He contacted me in a rush. He said, Shelley, because you call me Shelley, I was using that name. He said, Shelley, I just found those plant pots, and they were outside my garage door, and I was worried about because of what you said. So I picked them up and I opened the garage door and I cut my hand. And he said he put the plant pots inside the garage because he was afraid somebody's going to fall over them. That was not supposed to happen. I interfered with his timeline. He cut his hand on the garage door somehow. I don't know exactly what the details were. Oh, his nickname was Zebra. He was just called Zebra. That's our handle, you know, his handle. But when I realised that I'd inadvertently triggered a situation of danger to him, which would not have happened if I'd never said anything, that's when I realised it was not a good idea to continue this sort of thing in messing with, because I was effectively changing the time. I was interfering with his timeline, is the actual life cycle that he's on, the path that he's on. I messed with it, and I shouldn't have done that, and that was punishment to me for doing that. So there are situations that you should not intervene, and there's so many stories of people who call their gift a curse, and we've seen movies about this sort of thing. A lot of people say it's a curse, and other people say no, it's a gift. Well, it depends on your perspective. It's a gift if you can do something that helps somebody, but it's a curse if you mean well but it actually causes harm, and he actually had harm brought to him. So there has been incidents, spiritual incidents that I've also seen, trivial incidents, which, for example, I was remote viewing this guy once, and I could see the colour of the cup he was drinking out of, and he said, yeah, you're right, I got the right cup. I told him what colour cup it was, and he said, you're right, and I got that right. But those are trivial. They're not worth, it doesn't make any difference. It's not changing his timeline. It's just something an acknowledgement, because he already knew what colour his cup was, and it was irrelevant to me, and it's not going to make any difference to his timeline. So that was harmless. But there's other things that you can. There was a time when I was looking at somebody else's. I was remote viewing somebody else, and I saw some old wagon wheels, and I was seeing some farm machinery where they live, and they told me, actually this used to be a farm when my grandfather was here many years ago, but it's not anymore. It's been redeveloped. It's just a housing estate now. So that was an interesting remote view that I did, which was completely out of context with the time that he was in. Oh, I can't remember if it was a he or a she. I think it was a she, actually. I'm going back to 2010, so it's a long time ago. So that was it. That was significant because it was out of his timeline, out of her timeline. Sorry, it was many years earlier. So it didn't. It was some of the history. Now, what I said previously, we're not in control of this. It's what's given to us. You have to understand that. The spirit world will give to us certain things. They're like communication. They're the conduit, if you like. But you can't alter somebody's timeline by giving them a large sum of money, because that's one whopping big change. And it's just not allowed. It's not allowed. It could probably cause, I don't know, something catastrophic to happen. Okay, people win the lottery all the time, but that might be because it's their destiny to win the lottery, right? But there are certain aspects to do with spirit and the realms above, which are not for us to mess around with. Now, okay, as I say, it might be okay for certain psychics to find clues to murderers, because they need to be stopped. Maybe the murderer is acting, maybe the killer or the murderer is acting on spiritual misguidance from a dark entity of some kind. It could be demonic, it could be somebody that's also interfering with our timeline. In that case, that has to be corrected. Therefore, they will guide a genuine medium to come in to correct an error, a mistake, which should not be happening. So that is not service to self, that is service to the greater good. That is something that is for a genuine just cause. And then they've got the mess of clearing up all the timeline that's been disrupted as a result of that, which often is not possible. So there's a lot of casualties along the way. There's probably a lot of people who died or suffered great harm. There's all the trauma. There's certain things which might take a long time in a family tree to resolve, as you know, for the course correcting, because they've got to course correct all this stuff, right? And I'm not surprised the world's in such a mess right now, to be honest with you, because there's so much interference going on. It's not, I mean, there's so much dark forces going on, so much interference. We are way off course to where we're supposed to be. That's why everything's falling apart around us right now. Especially here in the UK, things are just getting crazy right now. And there's such a lot of interference going on. It's hard for me. I'm an empath as well. I feel this massive anxiety. A lot of psychics and people who are sensitive do feel that anxiety. So a lot of us choose to take medication to suppress the anxiety. And I smoke cigarettes because of my anxiety, and it just makes me worse. But initially it helps, but then it makes you worse, and I'm trying to quit. But we're in a state of, the world is in such a mess right now. It's just getting really depressing. There was all these predictions made that there's going to be world war. There's going to be nuclear war in, what, 2025? Well, let's hope not. Let's hope not. But there was also on the spiritual channels, it's nothing to do with me, by the way, on the spiritual channels, I also heard that there was some intervention going on to eradicate the dark cabals that are actually causing problems for humanity. And there was a certain group who have left, as in extraterrestrials, if you like, the dark forces, they've left because they've chosen to go towards the light instead of the darkness. If that's true or not, I don't know. I have meditated on this sort of thing. I've been trying to find the answers to it. I've seen crystal cities on crystal worlds, on planets that are crystalline, and they send out these different colours to us. They're sending colours to us. These colours are different frequencies of to uplift humanity, to try and course correct this nightmare situation that we're on. But I think the damage is just too it's just too bad. It's just too huge, right? I don't see a simple solution, but you see, I'm not afraid of dying, and to be honest with you, there's times when I'll be glad when I'm reunited with my other family in the spirit world, because down here it's just too muddy right now. It's we're drowning in all this negativity. It's everywhere. I mean, I like to answer your questions, but I'm not, obviously you're not there, so maybe there's other things I can help with, but I'll stick this link at the bottom of the other video I just sent you anyway. But just remember something, psychics, they've got no control over the timeline. It's very difficult to hone in on a specific thing, because we're reliant on the spirit world, the guides, the angels, the ones who, I'm sure you've heard it all before. Anyway, thanks for watching. Tim, see you later. Well, maybe in an afterlife. I don't know. See you sometime.